Good Wednesday afternoon, just a little bit after 12, about 12:02 on this bright and sunny Wednesday afternoon. My name is Tommy Fleming, for anybody that might be checking in for the first time. I have the pleasure of serving as the pastor, one of the greatest churches there is, First Union Baptist Church, located on Derwent Road in Richmond Southside, right off of Hull Street. If you're familiar with the area, it's right there at Hull. Hay Road is on one side, and Derwent is on the other side. But that's where we're located. We have our Sunday morning service every Sunday at 8 o'clock, and on Wednesdays we sort of get together electronically, and we do what we like to call the Wednesday midday link up to lift up. And it's simply an opportunity for us right smack dab in the middle of the week. Wednesday is called Got to Get Over the Hump Day. And so what we hope is that we provide you with a little something to help get you over the hump. Hey, Crystal, blessings to you, my friend. I hope you've been getting some sleep lately. Crystal is a longtime friend of both Danette and myself. We actually went to Virginia Union together. Her and Danette worked together. As a matter of fact, she is the one that introduced us, and the rest is history after that. So I'm glad to see you logged on here. Danette and I were just looking at a picture the other night. I think I took it from Denise's Facebook page of your mother, and I can't believe how much you girls look like your mother. It just blows my mind. Hey, Sister Evie, good afternoon to you, and welcome as well. We want to welcome all of you that are joining us. If you're joining us via our Facebook page or our YouTube page, you can chime in and say hello on our chat function. And we do want to acknowledge those who take the time to say hi. But again, welcome today. It's a blazing hot one outside, and not as hot as it was yesterday. Thank God for that. Things got a little heated on the outside, especially when you factor in all the humidity. And so I hope you guys are keeping yourselves well hydrated, drinking plenty of fluids, and that you're doing everything you can to just stay out of the heat. If you must go out, make sure that you drink plenty of fluids. And if you've got any neighbors, any elderly neighbors, please be sure to check on them. Make sure that they've got enough water. Make sure that they've got adequate cooling within their homes, and just check on them to make sure that they're doing okay. It doesn't take much. You can just walk over, knock on the door. If you've got their phone number, give them a call. But in times like this, it is so important that we look out for one another. And again, so it's the Wednesday midday link up to lift up. And I want to talk to you today about staying on point. We face so many challenges in the course of our life. On a day-to-day basis, we run into all of these challenges that make it hard for us to just stick to our day-to-day schedules. I don't know about you. My morning starts off with a look at my email, and my email sort of dictates for me how my day is going to flow. And the truth of the matter is, my email is subject to be flooded one day and just be absolutely silent the next day. I can spend an entire day answering text messages, and then the next day, there's nothing going on. But the busyness of my day really is led by those two forms of communication, obviously phone calls as well, as I try in my capacity as pastor to respond to the administrative needs of my church family, the spiritual needs of my church family, as well as the emotional and physical needs of my church family. When you juxtapose that against the fact that I have pastored before, and while I no longer serve as pastor in that capacity, I still have pastoral love and concern for those individuals that trusted me with their spiritual well-being. And so it is so easy to get overwhelmed with the activities that are presented to you on a day-to-day basis. What I have come to learn, my friends, is that it is so important that we understand that even in the toughest of times, even when our resources appear to be overwhelmed, that God has got our back. I want you to know today that the stress we feel, the stress we often feel, and I know, I remember someone saying to me one time in response to my, "Hey, how you doing?" Their response was, "I'm too stressed to be blessed," and I said, "I wish I was." Says, "Well, you just have to count your blessings." Well, sometimes even as I count my blessings, I'm still stressed. See, stress is the body's natural reaction to the fact that the things that are required of you are outweighed by the resources that appear to be available to you. What are you saying, Reverend Fleming? Well, you get stressed when you look at your checkbook and you realize that you've still got an entire month of bills to pay or an entire month of expenses to meet with very little money. That creates stress. It's like understanding that you've got 40 miles to drive and your gas tank indicates that you've only got 30 miles of resources, if you understand what I'm saying. Stress is that overwhelming and natural response that occurs when your resources appear to be overwhelmed by the things that are required of you. Jesus once sent his disciples off. He called all of his disciples together and he dispatched some of them with specific instructions. And those instructions included not taking any money with you. Just go with what you've got, the clothes that are on your back. Don't even take extra clothes. Don't even take extra shoes. Just go as you are. And he said, this is in Matthew chapter 16, rather, beginning at that 11th verse, and it says, "And into whatever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and then abide till you go thence. And when you come into a house, salute it. And if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it be not worthy, let your peace return to you. And whosoever shall not receive you nor hear your words, when you depart out of that city or that house, shake off the dust of your feet. And verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves, and be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues, and ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour when ye shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you." And I just want to let you know today that in spite of what you're going on, what may be going on right now in your particular life, in spite of the challenges that you may be facing, it's important that you be assured that God has got your back. Now, when we say God has got your back, it's a phrase that many of us are familiar with. When you say that someone has your back, that means that you can count on that person. That if times get tough, that's a person you can turn to. That when times get rough and stressful, that you can turn to that person. And it is good to have someone who alleviates your concerns like that. But in spite of our best efforts as human beings, we can only get one another's back so much. There are limitations to the places we can be. There are limitations to how much we can do. There are limitations to the resources even that are available to us. But it's important to know that when God dispatches you, God sends along his resources with you. Even as Jesus sent out these disciples, remember he told them, take no extra money with you. As a matter of fact, the King James Version tells them to take no script. And some people believe that the script meant written words, but in this particular instance, the script represents money. When I was in boot camp in the Marine Corps, that's what we called our chits or our actual money. It was called script. That we kept an account somewhere that had money in it, and we were able to draw from that account scripts that we were able to use to purchase items. That's what Jesus is talking about. Jesus is telling them to take no extra resources with you, but that the God you serve, the God whom I serve, will make those provisions for you. And it's important that when you live in a world that requires resources of you in order to be able to fulfill the responsibilities that you have, it's important to know that even as those resources begin to run low, that God is a very present help, even in your time of trouble. I remember reading one time this story of someone who was touring Calcutta, and Calcutta is, for lack of a better phrase, one of the largest slums in the world. It's located in India, and it was the operating ground for Mother Teresa. And there in Calcutta, there was this so-called House of the Dying, where sick children are cared for in their last days, and the dispensary where the poor folk lined up by the hundreds to receive medical attention. And as this individual rather was watching Mother Teresa minister to these people, watching her feed them and nurse those who had been left by others to die, he was overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the suffering she and her co-workers faced on a daily basis. If you could imagine having a place in the middle of one of the poorest places in the world, and working in a place specifically set aside for individuals who are living out the last and final days of their lives. And not just any individual, but sick children who are being cared for in their final days. And the question was asked for her, how can you bear the load of this, watching these young people die without being crushed? And Mother Teresa replied to him. She said rather, I am not called to be successful. I am called simply to be faithful. Wow. I'm not called to be successful. I'm called to be faithful. And that's a perspective many of us could use in our Christian journey, that the success of what we do does not reside with us, that the success we have, or the success that is obtained by God, for God, and through God. It is very humbling to realize that you are simply a small cog in a greater gear, a small cog, an infinitesimally, I think I said that right, a very, very insignificant piece in a very large piece of machinery. And that's the perspective we have to take sometimes. As much as we want to puff ourselves up, it is the realization that we're not called, as Mother Teresa said, to be successful. We're just called to be faithful, to not turn our backs on the work the Lord has assigned to our hands. I know sometimes it can be overwhelming that even as you're sitting there, trying your best, trying your absolute best to minister in the way that God has called you to be faithful in the things God has called you to be faithful in. Some of us have been assigned ministries that to our temporal eyes aren't doing anything, that to our temporal eyes, we feel like we're just spinning our wheels. But I want you to know today that even if it appears as though you're simply spinning your wheels, you're spinning your wheels in a plan that God has already established for you. It is a plan that God will see through to its fruition. You're not called to be successful in your endeavors. You're just called to be faithful, to never take a step back from where God has brought you to. And I've got to tell you, my friends, that is such an important concept in our Christian journey. We're quick to quote, those instances where God has called us to be still and know that I am God, to stand still and to see the salvation of the Lord. And those calls are not calls to inactivity. God is not telling us, hey, I just want you to hang out in a particular spot. I want you to be still and not move. But what God wants us to do rather is to still be be in that place that he has brought us to still be in that on that platform that he has elevated you to. And I don't know why he elevated you. I don't know what he's calling you to do at this particular place. But what you have to understand is that the God who called you is the God that has got your back. That the God who called you and the God has got your back, the God that has your back is also the creator of the ends of the universe. That he spoke everything into existence. That he is the one that has always made a way for us. The psalmist David said, I've been young and I've been old. I've seen many things in my life, but I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor have I seen the seed of the righteous begging bread. And what that means is that you might not have all the things that you want, and you might not have them all in the way that you want them. But the God that has called you to this place, the God who has dispatched you on this journey is the same God that's going to cover you when you run out of script. It's the same God who is going to cover you when you run out of words to say. It is the same God who, in recognition of your faithfulness, will pour you out a blessing you shall not have room enough to receive. I think you needed to hear that today. I'm not called to be successful. I'm called to be faithful. And that's my prayer today. Lord, make me faithful. If nobody else, if nobody else ever tells me, well done, Lord, don't let me fall down on my job. Help me to remember, Lord, what your word says. And your word says in Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. What Romans 8:35 says, who shall be able to separate us from the love of God? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? Paul says, for I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Man, I'm telling you today that when you look back over your life, you're going to see where God has worked things out for you. If I could make 4 quick suggestions to you today, as you continue on this journey, I need you to know that there are 4 things you must do. 4 things you must do. And I'm not going to take up a lot of your time this afternoon. The first thing I would encourage you to do is don't stray. God has brought you to a place. God has established your footing in a particular space, in a particular time, for a particular purpose. Don't stray from God's purpose within your life. It is so easy to lose sight of God's vision in our lives. You know, sometimes we stray, some of us call it drifting. Drifting is one of the easiest things there is to do in life. If you just close your eyes and take your eyes off of the point of focus, you'll find yourself drifting and straying. And not only don't stray, my friends, but here's something important. Don't strut either. We can get so pumped up in the things that we do in life that we lose our sense of humility. As a matter of fact, these very self-same disciples we were talking about, the disciples who were dispatched by Jesus, Jesus told them, don't take anything with you. God has got your back. Well, when they came back from this journey, the very first thing they did was say, Jesus, man, you should have been there. Boy, we were casting out demons. They began to brag about some of the things they were able to accomplish in the spirit. And Jesus says, hey, look, take no glory in those things. Take no sense of glory or pride in your ability to do those things. But just be glad that your name is written in the Lamb's book of life. Don't stray, don't strut. And look, my friends, don't stoop. Don't you ever lower your sense of worth and your sense of value in the ministry of God in this world to accommodate someone else. God has called you to a specific purpose. God has taken you through all that you have been through in your life so that he could develop an unshakable faith in you. And that unshakable faith in you, in him rather, he wants you to develop that unshakable faith in him. And that unshakable faith in him does not call you to stoop or to lower your standards for anything. Maintain the character, maintain the integrity that God has placed within you. And then finally, my friends, not only should you not stray, not stoop, not strut, but don't you ever stop. The Lord has not brought you to something he is incapable of bringing you through. I need you to know today that just as the word tells us in Galatians 6 and 9, the Apostle Paul said, let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. If we faint not, that's what he says. It's a promise from God. For in due season we shall reap. It's also a warning if we faint not. It is possible to get tired during this journey, but I don't want you to take a step back. I don't want you to shy away from the challenges life is going to provide to you. You keep your hand in God's hand. Keep your faith in God's ability, and keep your trust in the one who has called you to service. And remember this, God doesn't call those who have prepared themselves. God prepares them that he has called. And so I pray that the remainder of this week will continue to bless you. Again, I admonish you to be safe and to be careful in this hot weather. Be sure to drink plenty of fluids. Water is the best thing you could drink. Coffee, if you're going to be outside exerting yourself, it may not be the very best thing for you because it helps to dehydrate you. Sister Crystal, I'm so glad to hear that this word has spoken to you. Believe and receive. I know the general belief is that seeing is believing, that there's some things you can't believe until you see. But I submit to you today, my friends, that there's some things you can't see until you believe. That's how God is. Sister Patricia, good afternoon to you, and Sister Evelyn, Sister Wendy. I pray that God will continue to bestow his blessings upon each and every one of you. And know, Sister Wendy, that I still have you guys in my thoughts and prayers. You will always be a part of my life and a part of my ministry. So that's it for today. I'm hoping that if you're not able to join us for our service on Sunday, that you will meet us right back here, same bat time, same bat channel, for another edition of our Wednesday Link Up to Lift Up. God bless you, and may heaven smile upon you.